Hey, this is Brent Jensen. You're listening to No Sleep Till Sudbury, the show where we talk about the music that makes your skin vibrate. And today it is my distinct pleasure to be joined by one of my favorite Canadian musicians, bassist and co-founder of iconic band Spoons. It's Sandy Horne. Sandy, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Well, thank you, Brent, for having us on, or having me on.
You're welcome. Well, you know what? When we get back to normal, maybe you and Gord can come in and maybe do a tune.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'm a big Spoons fan, as you know. And you know what I wanted to talk to you about, actually, being a big Spoons fan. So, most people know Spoons, obviously, for Romantic Traffic, Those Old Emotions, Nova Heart. But Spoons started out originally as, you guys did prog numbers and Genesis covers. Is that right?
Yeah, before we were Spoons, we were a band called Tryst.
Mm-hmm. And
we were basically a basement band because the songs were 8-minute epic songs that time signature changes. And, it was very self-musically indulged.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. But from that, we took many of the little chunks that were really cool and formed the first Spoon songs.
Ah.
We realized that maybe the 8-minute epic songs is not going to necessarily hit the radio, and not everyone's going to get to hear us. So we decided, well, we better make the songs shorter. And we kind of came out at the end of the punk era. So people at first thought we were a punk band because of the era. And that new wave was just starting to come in. So we kind of were on, our first 45 we put out, which was called After the Institution and My Job. We funded ourselves. It was kind of punky-ish.
Ah.
Got to Stick Figure Neighborhood, which was our first album. It started to get more, I guess, new wavy-ish. Like after My Job, I'm barking in the background, My singing part was barking.
That's indie. That's really indie. That's as indie
yeah,
as
and that's what got Rob Preuss interested in joining the band.
Rob. He joined when he was 15, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had to get his mom to write him a note for you guys to play in bars.
Exactly.
I thought that was so funny. He told me that.
What's even funnier is that when we were out east, we were playing this bar. This is before we really hit big. It was kind of our first time out east. I think we were somewhere in like Halifax or something like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, we played this bar and it was a strip bar. And we were going later in the evening. So the girls were all backstage with us running around naked. And there's Rob, 15 years of age, in the bar back with ladies with no clothes on and their chests hanging out.
Oh, his poor mom. She probably didn't sign off for that.
Oh, she probably doesn't know about it.
That's great. He never did tell me that. I'm going to have to wind him up about that. He's been on the show, Sandy, like 45 times. He's a regular guest. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to ask you a question about Romantic Traffic. So is it true that the doot-doot-doot-doot-doot-doot parts were added just as a guide vocal? Is that true?
Well, when Gord wrote the song, he couldn't come up with any other words, so he was just singing doot, doot, doot to himself and then saying Romantic Traffic. And when we were working with Nile Rodgers, Gord was working frantically to try and fill the doot, doot, doots with words. And Niall said, no, just leave it. That's the hook. Just the doot, 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 Romantic Traffic. That was the hook. He says, no, that's the hook, man. Don't touch that. Like, leave it. Don't put words there.
That is so great. Wow. I don't think a lot of people know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So before we get into your songs here, we want to touch on two things. The first thing that I wanted to tell you, I've always been a big fan. I very vividly remember meeting you in 1989 at a Spoon show that you guys did in Sudbury. And I was a geeky fanboy. I nervously approached you for an autograph, and you could not have been more gracious. You signed the back of my ticket stub that night. I was super thrilled. I put it up in my dorm room, and that was 1989. So all these years later, here we are.
Yeah. That I do remember because I have signed a few in my day.
Oh, I'm sure. Do you remember going, I mean, you guys have been everywhere across Canada. Do you remember going through Sudbury at all?
Oh, yeah. We played the university super pubs all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Right from 82 all the way up to probably 89 was the last time we were in Sudbury. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Wow. So, Sandy, you guys are doing something right now in support of COVID-19, which I think is great, in support of frontline workers. It's called Back to the Basement. You're doing this with a number of other international groups. Actually, you are the only Canadian group, which is really cool. What you're doing is giving a virtual concert performance from your home for this. I think it's Abducted by the 80s, this group. Is that right?
Yes, it is. If anybody wants to go to abductedbythe80s.com and you can subscribe to getting onto the show, or you can just watch it on Facebook. It airs. It gives you the time zones when you go to the website, depending on where you are across Canada or the United States. Because it's coming out of California is where Back to the Basement is, or Back to the 80s is really what it is. Originally, it was Gord was supposed to be playing live with Flock of Seagulls this year for the 80s tour that these guys put together normally, but because of COVID, they were unable to do that. And then they thought, well, what could we do in replacement for it? And that's where they came up with this Back to the Basement, playing in your own home and sending in the videos. Most of them are done on little pod cameras and GoPros and iPhones.
Ah.
For us, what we did is we got our sound man to bring his digital board. I have a recording studio here, and Gord was in one end of the kitchen. I was in the dining room. So we're all properly spread out, being safe.
Social distancing.
Yeah. Scott McDonald, the keyboard player, was in my bedroom, and the drummer, Chris McNeil, was in the living room.
Wow.
And we all had headphones on, like in-ears, and we played live and did a streamline into the studio so we could properly mix it. And then my daughter walked through with her iPhone filming us. So it's constantly moving. So a lot of the times people do from home, they're just like that still square, you watch you play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually moving like a video. So it's really quite cool the way it came out.
Oh, that's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
And that is on Saturday. Is that right?
13th.
The 13th.
So like I said, on the website, you'll see the different time zones. So if you're in Eastern time, I think it's 2:00, and the second segment is at 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, I know a lot of my listeners are going to want to see that. So that's awesome.
And you also knew we have a new album out, right?
I do. It came out March. Is that right? March last year?
March last year, yeah. So we're still, we actually have two videos that are for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
One was for Landing Lights, was one of the songs, and the other one is the actual title track, New Day, New World.
Ah, okay. Good
40th anniversary.
Oh, wow. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I know, 1980. So Rob and Derek were supposed to come and do a lot of shows with us this summer, but we're having to postpone it to 21. So we're just going to pretend 2020 never happened.
Well, is that the plan? Are you going to do that when COVID blows over?
Yeah, well, a lot of the festivals that were canceled have said we're just going to rebook for next year for the same lineup. So we're going to be able to save our shows that we've lost, most of them.
Yeah, that's great. Very good. We look forward to seeing that too. So your first song, Sandy, is you told me before you sent the list over that this list was out there. I like these. This is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a reason behind each one of them for me. Everyone has their own reasons, Rhett. But my first influence through music was Over the Rainbow, sung by Judy Garland.
Yeah.
And I saw it in the movie Wizard of Oz, and I was watching it. I was about 4 years of age, and it was very distinct, and it was very impressionable to me. And I just said, Daddy, I want to do what she's doing.
Ah.
And I started following, and then Judy Garland, and then I realized that she was actually close to my dad's age, and then I was horrified. And that's when I went, oh, gee, you can actually have a long career in music, so then that's okay.
Wow. So would you count that as your inspiration?
Judy Garland, Over the Rainbow from the movie Wizard of Oz. And I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do what she's doing. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, hopefully singing, but I'm going to be on stage. That's what I said to myself.
Ah, wow. That's fantastic. And here you are. That's great. I love that. Now, The Mamas and the Papas is next, California Dreaming. This is one of my favorite tunes. I really, really love this song.
It's the first time I really got the influence of harmonies that kind of really struck me. I mean, I would have only been, it came out in 65, I believe, but I think I probably had an impression when I was closer to 6 or 7 years of age. So I would have been like 66 or 67, but it was still being played on the radio. And I was like, I love the harmonies, like the sound, the big, wide, sounded like a choir to me.
Yeah.
Now I can hear it individually. I could hear each person, what they're singing, but to me it was just one massive sound, and it just seemed like a big picture. I could see the picture of the song in my head.
Oh yeah.
And all I wanted to do was figure out all the harmonies. How were they doing that?
Yeah, that was this song played in my house when I was a young kid too, and I found it very soothing. Those harmonies and those melodies are just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, they're an amazing band. I mean, they've got a very strange history, but that's okay because that was part of the era.
Oh yeah, yeah. Have you seen that documentary that Jacob Dylan, Bob's son, has done recently?
Yeah, I saw the first episode. I haven't seen the second one. I've got it actually taped on my my channel.
It's great. They do a little thing on Michelle Phillips in there. It's fantastic. Yeah.
The song was written in New York, and she wanted to go to California, but all the bands at the time were in New York somewhere, and no one was going to LA yet. And she just kept saying, "I want to go to California. Let's go to California." And that's, I guess, when the song was written.
Mm-hmm. And I think it was wintertime too, wasn't it?
Winter in New York.
Yeah.
Very dull, and they were very bored. And
yeah, fantastic song. Great pick. The next one is from the movie Hair, Age of Aquarius.
Yes, Fifth Dimension. And that one for me, I can remember I was at my cousin's place for the weekend, and we were just hanging out, and her brother had a band, and he was learning the song. Like, I heard it on the radio, and he was learning the song, and my cousin and I decided we would be the backup singers. Kind of like my first song I learned to sing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I would have been like 8 years of age or something.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a rock star. I know I am. We fuzzed up our hair, and I had long hair, so I was give me the thing with hair.
Now, after that, so you said you were 8 years old. When Spoons got started, I think you guys got started around 78, 79, right?
It was late November of 79, so we say 1980, really, by the time we had keyboards and drums.
Yeah. Did you meet Gord at school, in high school?
Yeah, I met Gord in high school. Well, it kind of leads into the next song, which I believe came out in 1971, but I met Gord in 75. But prior to that, in order for me to be playing guitar and even coming up to playing bass, I was very influenced by Led Zeppelin 4 album, Stairway to Heaven. And I couldn't find the sheet music. And my girlfriend that I was telling you, my cousin girlfriend, because she's probably like a distant cousin, her brother gave me his guitar. And it was a really rickety kind of Willie Nelson high bridge, hurt your hands like crazy. And I learned to play Stairway to Heaven because I figured if I could learn that song, then I'd be able to play guitar. So I taught myself Stairway to Heaven.
That's awesome.
So then when I got to high school, I had already started taking up trumpet lessons, and I joined the school band, high school band. It was junior high because I was only in grade 9. And then I was doing so well that the music teacher said, "Hey, we need a third trumpet player in the senior band. We don't normally ask grade 9s to come into the senior band, but we really need you." And I said, okay. So I did, and lo and behold, I sat beside Gord. He was playing first sax, and I was playing first trumpet. So in the lineup, it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
I sat right beside him, and he was so shy. He never talked to me. And I would pretend that I was lost in the music, and I go, "I'm lost. I don't know where I am in the song." And he'd just take his finger and point.
That's great.
On a band trip to Arnprior, Ontario, where we were performing for another high school, we went over a weekend into the beginning of the next week. There was 2 acoustic guitars on the bus. I brought mine, and Gord brought his. I didn't know he was a guitar player, and he was at the back of the bus with the boys. I was at the front of the bus with the girls doing folk songs and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And eventually the guitars got to the back of the bus, and this is the first time he really had a conversation with me. He said, "Here, can you play the root notes on the 4 lower strings of the acoustic guitar so I can do some lead?" And I went, "Sure." So I just started like holding, E, G, A, C, that kind of thing, pumping it as loud as I could on the acoustic guitar. And he had a band at the time called Impulse with the drummer in the high school band.
Okay.
And he said, "We need a bass player. Do you want to play bass for us?" And I went, "Sure, I'll ask my dad when we get home."
No way.
And we rehearsed in a music store in the basement after hours. So for the longest time, I didn't have my own bass. So I just pulled a bass off the wall to play it for rehearsal. And that's how I learned about amps and basses before I even bought one.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that. That's crazy. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What a cool story. And then you guys were off and running.
Yeah. And then from there, I was in the band for about a year, and then Gordon and I went off on our own. At that point in time, Gordon and I were just friends, and then eventually we became a relationship for a while as a boyfriend and girlfriend. That's when he then came. This is the next most influential song is "The Lambs Lie Down" on Broadway by Genesis. He was very much into Genesis, and he started teaching me different licks from guitars and bass for Genesis, and that's how we formed the band Trist, and we got very indulged in doing kind of prog music, per se.
How about that?
Yeah.
That is so cool. This is like a little retrospective of your musical career from inspiration all the way through to probably your first Spoons gigs.
Exactly. Like, to me, everything, I mean, I'm sure everyone looks back in their life and realize where they are today, that everything was like a fitted puzzle. At least that's what it feels like to me. And I can remember I bought my own bass that unfortunately got stolen at one of the first Spoons shows. I was very upset. And I bought the bass with some money that we won from a battle of the bands in Impulse. And it was, I don't know if you remember Dave Marsden from CFNY.
Yeah, of course.
But he was one of the judges, and I'd only been playing bass for 6 weeks. And he says, "I'm going to be watching you guys. I think you're going to have a future ahead of you." And we didn't win, but we came second place, and we won a bunch of cash. And with that, I bought my bass.
Yeah.
But back with the Impulse days, I'd only been playing bass. I was walking with my bass. We had about a mile walk to get to where we rehearsed, and we were all walking together. Like an epiphany moment, walking around the corner. And I remember the color of the house and everything, and it just kind of like slow motion going do-do-do-do-do. And I went, "Oh, I'm going to be doing this for a really long time, playing bass. Cool." Wow. And I was like 15 at the time.
That's incredible.
Just had like I don't know, a deja vu or epiphany of the no or something.
Yeah.
And here I am 40 years later. Well, 45 actually.
That is incredible.
I first started playing the bass.
Very inspiring. I love that story.
Well, thank you.
Very cool. So that is your song list. Thank you very much. As I say, when this is over, I would love for you to come back on, bring Gord, and play some live stuff.
For sure. That'd be great.
I know a lot of my listeners are Spoons fans, so they would love it too.
Okay.
And maybe
awesome.
maybe we can figure out a way to work Rob Preuss in there somehow.
Yeah, that's been the problem with these platforms is they have this delay for actual doing live. So unless you pre-send a track, it has been very bumpy. There's like a 2 second or a second and a half delay or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine about that, and watching these things when they try to combine from multiple locations, there's a bit of a delay. So you almost, as a musician, have to try to anticipate that to make everything work properly.
Yeah, when you're teaching yourself to play in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's why when we did our live at home thing, we didn't do it individually. We actually recorded from the same location in different rooms, so at least we could hear each other.
Yeah, that's good. That is good. Now, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think it's going to be great. And I think it's really cool that you were the only Canadian band on that roster. Yeah.
Well, it came through, I think, because of Gord being involved with the Flock of Seagulls. And like I said, these guys were originally doing the 80s tours that they do every year down in the States and a little bit in Canada, which includes the Flock of Seagulls and Wang Chung and all these people that are on the platform, Naked Eyes, the list goes on, Tiffany. And, Gord got talking to him and said, that's great that this is, England, UK, and United States, but you're missing out Canada. How about the Spoons? And he went, sure, we'll put you guys on too. So that was awesome. Yeah.
Well, good luck with that. I will be watching. A number of my listeners will be as well. Thank you so much for making the time today. I appreciate it, Sandy. It's a personal pleasure of mine because, as I said, I'm a fan of yours, and it was great to chat with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great. I can't wait to come back. Good. I have to get in competition with Rob now.
Rob's got like 39 shows on you. It's like he's on every month.
Oh, see, I got a lot to catch up on.
You know what, though? In all seriousness, it's impossible to pick 5 of these songs. I love the way that you did this because, as I said, it was like a retrospective through your musical kind of career. But, people say after the show, I would love to come back because I have so many more songs I want to talk about that, make my skin vibrate and mean something to me. So oftentimes guests will come back. As I said, you are definitely welcome back. And if Gord comes along, great, but you're certainly welcome.
Yeah, I can pass you if you got Gord's contact, because I'm sure he'd love to do this too.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I'll reach out to him. Yeah, I'd love to chat with him. Very cool, Sandy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have a great day.
All right. You too. Thank you. This has been No Sleep Till Sudbury with Brent Jensen and my very special guest, Sandy Horne. Till next time, folks. Take good care.
Brent Jensen is the best-selling author of No Sleep Till Sudbury, Leftover People, and All My Favorite People Are Broken. All titles available in stores and on Amazon worldwide.